Okay, guys, good morning. Hope you're having a good day. We're going to continue talking about charts, graphs. I'm going to give people maybe just about another minute. Today, we're going to look at specifically a pie graph, but I want to show you all the different types of charts and graphs you might see on the test.
Can you work with, are you able to work with Jeanette today? Yeah. Okay. So we told them yesterday that we're cutting the time to an hour. So, she can get some instruction in the independent work, but she's still going to be here, for 2 hours.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started, you guys. If you look up here, you see there's a pie graph, and the reason they call it a pie, it looks like a circle or a pie. The second one is bar graph. We've done that. Third one is line graph, and just the last one's a charter table. But the thing I want you to see, remember when we look at a graph or chart, it's important to look at the title. And all these titles are the same. They are the hours GED students studied per week. And the pie graph is broken, so there's 4 different times or amounts. So you have 4 more hours, 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour or less. And this one is color coded to go with kind of how they break the pie up. So you see 31% studied for, let me see, that looks like that's 2 hours. 15% were 1 hour or less, 19% were 4 hours more, and 35% of the students were 3 hours. So this adds up to 100. Okay, so you can see if you add all 4 of these up, you'll get 100. And this is just showing the colors basically kind of match up with a percent. So each color represents a different amount of time. So you can see that the majority were at 35%, and that was, I believe, 3 hours. Okay. And the smallest portion was the 15%, and that was 1 hour or less. Okay. And if you look over on the bar graph, you can see that 3 hours or more was the most, 2 hours was second, 4 hours more was third, and 1 hour less was last. And over here, you can kind of see the same thing. So it looks like 4 students studied 4 hours or less, 8 students studied 2 hours, 9 students studied 3 hours, and 5 of the students studied for 4 hours more. And you can see right here, this is out of 26 students. Even though this equals 100%, only 26 students. And the last one would just be a table where you have number of students on the left, 4 studied for 1 hour or less. You have 8 students studied 2 hours, 9 students studied 3 hours, and 5 students studied 4 hours or less. So this table is pretty straightforward. All these basically are about, the title is hours of GED students studied per week. So for the line graph, the students go up the left-hand side, the hours are on the x-axis. Same thing with the line graph. The students are up the y-axis going up and down, and the hours are on the bottom. Okay. So these are basically the 4 different types of graphs or charts you would see on a test. But what I want to do now, I want to dig down a little bit deeper into the pie graph. Okay. So if you look at the one I have up here. The title is U.S. Average Family Spending. So what we've done a pie graph. So it's going to be out of 100%. And this breaks down how much of money we spend on all the different things a family needs. So the biggest one, if you look here, is housing. So 34% of your money that you make goes to housing. And that makes sense. The biggest majority of your money usually goes to rent or your mortgage. The second biggest one would be transportation, and that's 17.6%. Now, transportation can be like your car, bus pass, motorcycle, Uber, however you get around. The next one would be healthcare. That's 5.7%. That's going to the doctor, dentist, whatever, buying medicine, prescriptions, if you don't have insurance. So apparel is 3.8. That would be clothing. Entertainment, 5.4% of your, the average family spends 5.4% of their money on entertainment. That could be like movies, baseball games, football games, whatever. 10.7 goes to your pension or insurance. So that's about 1/10 of your money people put towards retirement or insurance. And the last category is 10.3, which is just miscellaneous. And that can be anything that's not covered in those other categories. So I want to look at some questions here. So you can see housing's 34%. That would be the biggest. Then transportation's the next biggest. Then the pension would be third. Miscellaneous is fourth. Healthcare is fifth. Entertainment sixth. And apparel will be the smallest amount. Remember, this is the average family. This isn't just one family. This is, say they did a survey and maybe like 1,000 families participate in this survey. They would just basically take the average of 1,000 families, and each family is going to be a little bit different, but this is just the average. Okay. So I want to look at some questions. So all right, having some problems with my pen. What else is new? Okay, there we go. So the first question would be, what type of chart or graph is this? Okay. Well, it's going to be, we'll call it a pie. And if we go back to this, we're going to see right up here, the circle is going to be called a pie graph. Pie graph or circle graph. So they're basically both the same thing. I think most of them referred to as pie, but if you see a circle graph, you know it's the exact same thing. So it's going to be a pie graph. The answer is going to be pie. Okay. Now the second question says, in your own words, what does this graph show? So if we go back up to the title, this graph shows U.S. average family spending. So however you want to say that, you could say that. I mean, it says in your own words something like how much the average family, how they spend their monthly income, their yearly income, I don't know, weekly income, or their weekly money, a combination of that. It is all about family spending. So you could say even how the average family spends their money. Something like that. You're just taking the title up here, and putting that in your own words. However you want to do that is perfectly fine. All of us are probably going to title it something a little bit different. And this one isn't like a right or wrong. It's just asking you to put U.S. average family spending in your own words, okay? The next one says, what are 3 different categories of spending this graph shows? Okay. So we go up to this graph, and we just have to look for 3 different categories. So we have housing's one category, transportation's another one, healthcare, apparel, entertainment, pension, and miscellaneous. So there's 7 different categories. So you just need to pick 3 of them. You can pick any 3. Once again, it's just about getting 3 of them down. So if you put housing, transportation, miscellaneous, that's fine. If you put entertainment, apparel, healthcare, that's fine. You just need to pick 3 of these categories, put them down, because you're basically just saying this is what basically the U.S. average family spends their money on. So any 3 of those would be fine, okay? And 4 is, what is one fact you learned from this graph? Okay, so you could go up here, and I think one thing, I don't know if all of you knew this or not, maybe you did, but that housing, 34%. So we spend about 1/3 of our money on housing, yearly, monthly, whatever it is. That could be a fact. Another fact is, we spend 17.6. That's about 1/5 of our money on transportation. So any one of these categories is something maybe you learned from this graph you didn't already know, okay? That maybe even we only spend 5.4% of our money on entertainment, or apparel, 3.8%. Some of us probably spend more money on apparel, clothing, but this is just the average. That's something else you could say, that the average family only spends 3.8% of their money on apparel. Each family is going to be different, but this is really, like I said, an average. It's like maybe 100 families, and we average it out. Maybe one family spends more on apparel, entertainment than they do on miscellaneous, but whatever. So any one of these categories is a fact that maybe you learned from looking at this graph. And if you knew all this, that's great, but you still have to put down something that you learned, okay? So you would just kind of use one of those categories and maybe state that in your own words, that I didn't know, or I learned that 1/3 of people's monthly or yearly income goes to housing. That's what I keep coming back to. Okay. So that's pretty much it for this pie graph. You'll see these sometimes. This one had 7 categories. Sometimes the first one we did only had 4. Like the GED one up here only had 4 categories. So, sometimes they're going to be a combination between 4 and 7, maybe 8. But really what you want to do once again, is look at the title. And this one was hours GED students study per week. And the one that we just did was U.S. average family spending. And the title is always going to be at the top, so keep an eye out for that. All right. So that's going to be it for today. I will post another exercise on doing a pie graph with some questions. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Bye.